ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वाम् अनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारत पंकजं कलिमल भूयाद् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालम् मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः
Mahadeva, 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 Mahadeva. Is the sound clear?
Mahadev Swamiji, please Swamiji.
All right. Om Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedanscha Prahinoti Tasmai Tam Hadevamatma Buddhi Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye Om Shanti 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 Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Sarvopaplavarahitaha Prajnanaganaha Pratyagartho Brahmaivahamasmi Brahmaivahamasmi Om Vedantartha Vibhasakaya Gurave Shantaya Sannyasine Nanavadi Nagendra Sanghapavaye Yogindra Vandyaya Cha Mohadvanta Divakaraya Bhagavat Padabhidham Bibrate Tasmai Bhashyakrite Namostu Satatam Purnaya Bodhatmane Om. So then when Arjuna has asked the question, as what are the lakshanas, what are the distinguishing characteristics of the wise man in whom the knowledge has become stable, is steady, which means his awareness, I am Brahman, is not never ever lost and never losing. Is of two types. It means that when he is in samadhi, obviously all the thoughts have submerged, and therefore the pure awareness remains shining. But and at the time when the transactions with the world are going on, then obviously there is some form of identification with the body mind complex, and therefore when this is happening, how then that awareness, that aham brahma, that this atma that I am is complete, remains undisturbed. So over there, then teachers like Shankaranandji, following, taking the clues from Bhagavan Shankaracharya's commentary, they say that it is because the samadhi that has deepened so much. Now this awareness Atma is Brahman, though may get oh, not overpowered, but in a transactional world, though there are these transactions happening by identifying with the body, yet it remains somewhere at as the background music. Like Bhagavan Shankaracharya elsewhere in Viveka Chudamani gives us this example. He says, like a person who is an actor, and when he is on the stage, he is identified with the character that he is playing. Though he is identifying as a king, as a beggar, or some Romeo, Juliet, whosoever, yet at the back of the mind, he knows that I am not these characters. His true identity does not become clouded in spite of him playing the role very well. Exactly like that, even for a person of the steady knowledge who then is involved in this world, involved in the sense transacting with this world, and for the sake of transaction, the identification with the body mind complex is inevitable. So when that takes place, yet the awareness is not never lost. So these are the two things that Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains. Samadhistha, the one who is absorbed, and when he is in the when he is in the Vyuthita Dasha, transacting with the world. Explaining this, then Bhagavan Shri Krishna said that in order to know who is or how is this man of steady wisdom, one of the sure signs is Indriya Jaya. He is Jitendriya. In the sense, he is the one who has mastered his organs of action and organs of perception. So sense organs are under his control, and that is a very, very important indication. Yet there was another thing that one should know, that a person who is sick, who is disturbed, also may not indulge in the sense objects, etc. But does that mean that he is a man of a steady wisdom, or he is enlightened? No, because though such a person who is striving to keep the senses, etc., under control, yet he may withdraw the participation, he may withdraw his participation with the world, yet the raga, the rasa, the interest in the objects still lingers on. And therefore, a person whose raga, the raga dveshas have gone away, and and his senses are under control, such a person is definitely a man of steady wisdom. Now, in the continuing with the discourse, Bhagavan Shri Krishna then told us, showed us the fall of ladder. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha. How does a person make his own fall possible? And then, wherever the person is, it is still possible for him to retrieve himself back, not fall and wallow and ask people for their sympathies, but to get up and gather courage and once again try to come up. That is more important. So, Dhyayato, and what should be your the path through which you will track yourself back? And in order to know that, Bhagavan Shri Krishna showed us that Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammohaha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Bhramshat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. Having said that much, now to show how this man of steady wisdom is different from the person who is ordinarily just trying to survive in this world. Here we go in 64. रागद्वेषवियुक्तैस्तु रागद्वेषवियुक्तैस्तु विषयानिन्द्रियैश्चरन् विषयानिन्द्रियैश्चरन् आत्मवश्यैर्विधेयात्मा आत्मवश्यैर्विधेयात्मा प्रसादमधिगच्छति प्रसादमधिगच्छति. Now that there is a contrast of being painted, and so to show the difference, the contrast is there. So whereas the one whose mind is controlled, raga dvesha viyuktaistu, mind is controlled. How do you know? Atma vashayir vidheyatma, moving in this world of objects. Vishayan indriyaicharan, indriyaihi vishayan charan. Moving in this world of objects with the organs mastered, free from likes and dislikes, attains tranquility. He attains peace. Prasadam adhigachati. Okay. Now this word prasadam is also a very interesting word. Though we have said it means peace, yet, we have to go into the meaning that is brought out by our teachers. So this is the word meaning of the shloka. The people who are really wanting to go into this anvaya of the shloka, this is the anvaya. Vidheyatma. So the first word is vidheyatma. रागद्वेष वियुक्तैः आत्मवश्यैः इन्द्रियैः Vishayancharan prasadam adhigacchati. This is the rearrangement of the words so that now you have a structured sentence. Okay. Bhagavan Bhashakara says, Sarvanarthasya Vishayabhidhyanam Uktam. Now, so far, what have we covered? That the root cause of all the problems is Vishayabhidhyanam, dwelling upon the objects. Now, by the objects, in the sense we mean Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Wherever one has invested the idea of happiness, that it is, because that is necessarily that one sees it as anatma, and therefore what is the thing? That anatma is the source of happiness. Once when, and whatever that anatma, then a person, an object, some sort of an action, a project, whatever it may be. Now, Vishayan Dhyayan, now the person who is thus doing the Vishayabhidhyanam, what happens? That is the Sarvanarthasya Moolam. Okay. Sarvanarthasya Moolam Vishayabhidhyanam Uktam. This is being told to us. This was told to us in the earlier verses. Then now what? Athaidanim mokshakaranam uchyate. Now, how will one liberate himself if that is the karana of anartha? Finally, where has that anartha reached? It has taken the person to what? To being, to suffering. And therefore, athaidanim, now, what is an end to this suffering? How can that be brought about? And so, moksha karanam sadhanam idamuchyate. This particular verse is meant to tell you the moksha karanam. How is that? Now, actually, this becomes, though this is the lakshanam, the characteristic of a man of steady wisdom, yet we should never ever forget that we have to draw our conclusions so that we will be able to follow what can be done in our life. And so for the sake of what, getting a clarity on what should be our practice, how are we going to put our next step further? Athaidanim moksha karanam uchyate. Then ragadvesha purassarahi indriyanam pravritti swabhaviki. Now, the pravritti of indriyas, the outward movement of the indriyas, of our senses, of our organs of action, because the word indriyas will cover organs of action as well as the organs of perception. In English, etc., this language does not have a particular word to categorize this indriya. So and therefore let us, if you have understood the significance of word indriya, let us keep it as indriya. So indriyanam pravritti, the movement of these indriyas in this world. How is it? Swabhaviki. It is natural. And not only it is natural, but raga dvesha purassarahi. It is due to the raga dvesha, due to the likes and dislikes, due to that, it is like the current flowing through. So raga dvesha purassarahi indriyanam pravrittihi, and that is swabhaviki. Now let us look at, in this particular line that Bhashakara has given, Anandagiri says, Ragadvesha Purvika Pravritti means iti atra anubhava darshanartho hi shabdaha. When Bhagwan Bhashakara is saying Raga Dvesha Purassara Hi, that word he over here is meant to show what that the pravritti, the movement of the indriyas is due to the presence of raga and dvesha. A. But the word he is to show it is an experiential knowledge, and therefore it is very clearly known to all of us. So thus, anubhava darshanartho hi shabdaha. Then why does he say swabhaviki? It is natural because shastriya pravritti vyasedhartham swabhaviki iti uktam. When he says it is swabhaviki, it means that the pravritti, the actions, etc., which which are induced by the shastra is not swabhaviki. It is not something one will have to train himself for that. One will have to do a little thinking before the action. It is not just springing out like that out of raga dvesha. And therefore, we must learn something. And that is, before we give any response and send the indriyas in action, remember that give a little gap. Whether one is speaking or doing anything, one should create a little space and let your response be 2 seconds late. It is not going to cause any great harm. But is it necessary? Should I do it? Is it right? So, questions like this, which will make the viveka take charge of your action, should be there. So that time gap, a little time gap, is giving space for viveka to come into action. Otherwise, the pravritti is swabhaviki. But is when a person starts creating that gap of viveka, for viveka to come and take the charge, then it is shastriya pravritti. It is no longer swabhaviki pravritti. And over here, Bhashakara is saying that ragadvesha purassara hi indriyanam pravritti hi swabhaviki. Now, what is ragadvesha purassara? Ramaraya Kavi throws light on that, and he says it simply means ragadvesha prayuktaha. That pravritti is ragadvesha prayuktaha, propelled by raga and dvesha. Okay, it is propelled by raga and dvesha. So, तत्र यो मुमुक्षुः स ताभ्यां वियुक्तैः इन्द्रियैः विषयान् अवर्जनीयान् उपलभमानः. Now, the mumukshu, the one who is desirous of liberation, for him what happens? Tabhyam viyuktaihi indriyaihi. Now, when you have created the space for the viveka to come and take charge of the situation, that time what happens? The indriyas no longer are under the control of raga and dvesha. Just asking the question, is it right? Is it right for me to do this, say this, eat this, whatever? Now, whenever now it means that the process of disassociating raga dveshas from the indriyas has taken place. So now these indriyas now are slowly emerging out, free from the influence, free from the control of raga dvesha. This freeing of the indriyas from the control of raga dvesha is called as control of indriyas. Otherwise, the word control is not control is not something like becoming a control freak and person. This is I'm going to control my indriya. No, it simply means being setting the indriyas free from the control of raga and dvesha. Okay. So yohi mumukshu sa tabhyam viyuktaihi indriyaihi. Now when a mumukshu thus uses these indriyas to participate or to transact with the world, which are free from the mastery of raga and dvesha, then what happens? Yes, he is also going to see the world and he is also going to experience the objects, but those objects which are avarjaniya, which cannot be avoided. Mind you, then such a person is not chasing objects. He is not chasing the objects. He is, because the object is there, it will be seen. Because the smell is there, he is going to smell it. Because it is a hot day, he is going to feel it. Because it is a cold day, he is going to feel it. So whatever the vishayas may be, yet he will take them, and these are avarjaniya, unavoidable, and therefore avarjaniyan vishayan upalabhamanaha. He is not going out in the chase of the objects. Okay, he is not chasing the objects any longer, and this is what is being said. Ha tatra yo mumukshu satabhyam viyuktaihi indriyaihi vishayan avarjaniyan upalabhamanaha. Some modern teachers in the sense the spiritual leaders, etc., have gone to the extent of saying, no, after this is reached, let that person go and indulge the way he wants. No, sir, this is not the case. This is not some form of hedonism in the garb of spirituality. This is not hedonism. Oh, but then we like that. Exactly, that is the problem. This is what likes and dislikes are. So, avarjaniyan upalabhamanaha. And then the indriyaihi. How are these indriyas? Atmavashyahi. In the original shloka, we come across the word Atmavashyahi. Atmavashyahi means Atmano vashibhutani indriyani taihi. When obviously the indriyas are not under the control of the raga and dvesha, because the viveka has set them free, okay, created that freedom for the indriyas. Now such indriyas are atmavashyai. Atmavashyani indriyani. How are they? They are under those who they have accepted the mastery of the self. In the sense, they are now surrendered. Done nothing else. It is not gaining a mastery differently or something. Now, this is what I'm going to control. It simply means the indriyas are set free from the mastery of the raga and dvesha. That is what has happened. That is atmavashyani indriyani here. Now, vidheyatma, the word is, because Bhashyakara Bhagavan follows this, though the words we may rearrange to make the Anvaya, but Bhashyakara generally as a rule does not go by, the rearrangement, but he follows without disturbing the sequence as it comes in the original verses. So Vidheyatma, who is such a person? Vidheyatma means what? The word Atma over here does not mean, Brahman, the self, that Atma. The word Atma over here means the Antakaranam, the mind of a person which desires good for him. Okay. Now, Vidheyatma, Vidheyaha Ichchataha Antakaranam Yasya. Vidheyaha means the one who is truly desiring his own good, prosperity. This is prosperity. Prosperity. Just don't think about having 2 or 3 extra cars and a big property and things like that. No, these are all arrangements only to appease the senses and the ego. We are not talking about that appeasement. We are talking about a person who truly wants to lift himself. What happens to such a person who is a Vidheyatma, whose Indriyas are now free from Raga and Dvesha, and therefore they are surrendered to the self? What happens to such a person is being said. Prasadam adhigachati. He gains prasad. He gains prasad. Oh, we go to the temple and get prasad every time we go over there. And the days that the pujari forgets, we remind him, Prasad de do, Guruji. And like that. Prasadam adhigachati. What is that prasadam? Prasada means prasannataha. It means gains the clarity. Okay. Prasadam adhigachati. Prasadam means prasannata. Okay. The clarity. Now the eyes are not clouded. The vision is no longer clouded, muddled up. Then it remains clean. I have very often quoted this example, and I'm going to use this again over here because the word prasanna demands it. All the Himalayan rivers, including Mother Ganga, also in the rainy season, obviously the soil and things like that from the mountains comes into the water, and the water is muddy. And during the summer, when the ice and snow melts, that also brings soil along with it. And therefore, during the rainy season, during the what do they call the summer season, we see the water which is little muddy. Okay, but during the winter season, Sharad Ritu, the water becomes clean and clear. So much clear that if you are going to stand on one of these bridges in Rishikesh, you can actually see the rocks at the bottom. If the river is deep, but you can actually see the rocks on the bed of the river. Why? Because that is called as prasanna. The river is clean, the water is clean. So such clarity is called as prasannata. So what does this person now gain? The one who has set his indriyas free from the raga dveshas, and thus he transacts with the world, but his vision is not clouded, and therefore it remains prasanna. Another meaning, but the meaning further he says is swasthyam. Swasthyam means is settled in its own nature. Now look at that. In the definition of yoga, Bhagavan Patanjali said over there, Tada Svarupe Avasthanam Tada Drashtuhu when the drashta, when the seer, the one who identifies himself as the experiencer over here, when he is centered in his own nature, that is called as samadhi. When he is settled in his own nature, what happens to the anatma padartha? It is settled in its own nature. So that, according to the Sankhya and Yoga, is their kaivalyam. But we can see that that is the reason why we are saying the jnani's samadhi is never broken. Okay. Apparently, what we call as the state of samadhi means where one is absorbed with eyes closed. But here, in spite of transacting with the world, the definition of yoga still becomes applicable. Swasthyam. Prasadam means swasthyam, swasmin atmani sthitam. So now over here, he prasadam adhigachati swasthyam, he remains settled in himself. So the mind also remains clean and clear without getting muddled up, muddied, clouded due to the raga dveshas. And so swasthyam, he is settled in himself. That settling in one's own nature is what is called as yoga, is what is called as samadhi. So, which is there possible for the jnani, though he is transacting with the world, but that samadhi of the yogi is not available when he is not in the state of samadhi. The jnani's samadhi remains unbroken. This is what is an important thing that we have to note over here. And therefore, look at that. Vidheyatma prasadam adhigachati. Swasthyam adhigachati. Ramaraya Kavi here says that swasthyam simply means manakshobha bhavaha. It means the absence of mental disturbance. What does he gain? Ramaraya Kavi he says, when Bhagwan Bhashyakara is saying swasthyam, it has the meaning, according to Ramaraya Kavi, as what? As absence of mental disturbance. Okay, look at this. These teachers are making the things as simple, not creating anything that is mystical. Okay, manakshobha bhavaha. That is what I like about these people. How it's wonderful. So manakshobha bhavaha, absence of mental disturbance. What does he get? He is at peace with himself. He is not at conflict with himself. Manakshobha bhavaha. Okay. So prasadam adhigachati. Now, Madhusudana Saraswati, on this particular shloka, on this particular verse, he writes, Yo asamahitatma sabahendriyani nigrahyati ragadvesha dushtena manasa vishayansh chintayan purusharthat chuto bhavati. Yo asamahitatma, the one who is not collected. Okay, now we have spoken about the person who is collected, but to draw the contrast over here, he who is not collected, how is he not collected? Though he controls the external organs, the indriyas, okay, I will not eat this, I will not do this, I will not see this. Yeah, okay. He controls, yet nigrihyapi ragadvesha dushtena manasa, because that person's mind is polluted by raga and dvesha. Then what happens? Manasa vishayash chintayan. Though outwardly he does not participate, yet inwardly he keeps secretly, he keeps on dwelling upon the objects. Okay. Vishayash chintayan. So outwardly, well, he is a good man. Though he is a good man, but has he attained what he wanted to attain? Mhm. Purushartha. So now that from that Purushartha, that what he wanted to attain, he is unable to do that. Ha. In the original shloka, Madhusudan Saraswati says, how, because the question is, how did you understand this particular thing? He says the shloka provides us this understanding because of the word tu. Ragadvesha viyuktaihi tu. That word tu is giving us that comparison. It allows us to have the comparison between somebody who has mastered the indriyas, because those indriyas are free from the slavery of raga and dvesha. That's all. This is the mastery. The indriyas are free from the slavery of raga and dvesha. This is the mastery. But the other one who just simply thinks that controlling the indriyas is called as freedom, is called as the mastery. Now, for him, there is a problem because his mind is still polluted with raga and dvesha. So, what has allowed us to have this contrast? The word tu, like but. But when we are saying but, no, that but allows us to have an understanding of something that is there before. So, यो असमाहितात्मा सबाह्येन्द्रिया तू शब्दः पूर्वस्माद् व्यतिरिक्तः is different from what was being discussed before in the earlier shlokas. आत्मवश्यैहि मनोवश्यैहि वा रागद्वेषाभ्याम वियुक्तैहि. Now look at that. Madhusudana Saraswati, he says that what is the mastery of the Indriyas? Freedom from the slavery of the raga and dvesha is the mastery. What is the mastery? Mastery is not the control of the Indriya. Control. It is not control just like that. It simply means freedom from the slavery of raga and dvesha. How did that happen? By just creating that little gap in which the viveka could come. Is it right or not? Dharma dharma. Kritya kritya viveka. That has made, taken away the strength of these raga dveshas. And when these raga dveshas become weaker, eventually they will wither away. Okay. Prasadam. Now the word prasadam, which Bhashyakara Bhagwan said, is swasthyam. Then Ramaraya Kavi explained that as manakshobha bhavaha. Madhusudan Saraswati puts even more light on that, and he says that prasadam means Paramatma Sakshatkara Yogyatvam. What is that prasadam? That prasadam means Paramatma Sakshatkara Yogyatvam. The capacity, then one will gather, develop the capacity, the strength, the ability for what? To see Paramatma. to know Paramatma directly as one's own being. Paramatma Sakshatkara Yogyatam Adhigachati, gains that. Okay. Madhusudan Saraswati further says, Kim vrajeta iti prashnasya uttaram uktam bhavati. Thus, now what we have is the answer to Arjuna's question, how does he transact with the world? How does he transact with the world? With the Indriyas, which are no longer in the slavery of Ragadveshas. And therefore his knowledge remains steady. Okay, so this is the lakshanam of the sthita prajna, from which what do we learn? To have the raga dveshas settled, resolved, and setting the indriyas free from the raga dveshas. Thus, the knowledge which has come through the shastra and acharya, through shravana and manana, now the nididhyasanam will go on uninterruptedly. Even the transactions of the world will not cause any interruption. Okay, so that does not mean that he keeps on transacting. He transacts only that much which is avashyakam. That's why Bhagavan Bhashyakara has used the word avarjaniyani. Okay. And therefore, Vishayansh Charan, avarjaniyan Vishayansh Charan. So Bhagavan Shri Krishna said Vishayansh Charan. Bhagavan Bhashyakara says avarjaniyan Vishayansh Charan. The clarity to that is given by Shankaranandi Tika. The Tika, that commentary of Shankarananda says, Annarasadin Anishidhan, means even over there, that the food, etc., food and drink, which is necessary. Okay, that which is necessary. So annarasadin anishidhan tatrapi pranatrana matra paryaptan. Pranatrana matra. And for the sake of what? For the sake of retaining and maintaining the body. So the transactions are limited in order to sustain the life, that much. Actually, that is what we are all doing, sustaining the life. But to that we are adding raga. And thus, even when people spoil their health, etc., spoil health, spoil relationships, you notice is for what? Is propelled by raga and dvesha. And therefore, Vishayansh Charan means Anishad Avarjaniyan. Avarjaniyan means Anishidhan. So that let that be remembered. Otherwise, we will do anything now that we have heard Atma is Brahman. Let us do whatever. No, we are not. This is not organizing some sort of, hedonistic party. Not at all. One has to be very, very cautious about it. This is because in the garb of this hedonism, just in the garb of wanting to please the ego and please the indriyas, people have taken to spirituality and calling that as spirituality. No, sir, know it very well. Anishiddhan Vishayan, and that's why that is very important, which Shankaranandji mentions over here. So now let us read the shloka once again and try to contemplate on it throughout the day. रागद्वेषवियुक्तैस्तु विषयानिन्द्रियैश्चरन् आत्मवश्यैर्विधेयात्मा prasadamati. All right, enough for the day. You have one shloka to dwell upon. So on every word of the shloka, try to recall the meaning and recall the meaning of the entire verse from the standpoint of Shankara, as Bhagavan Shankaracharya has explained, and it is further elaborated by Anandagiri, Ramaraya Kavi, Madhusudana Saraswati, and Shankaranandi Tika. So, enough for now. Make your morning great with the contemplation. Chintanam. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanta Shanta Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayinam Sutrabhashakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमपद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय।